I just soiled myself, yeah. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Please find your seats. With such a great speaker tonight, there's very little that I could say that could excite you. So let me just say a brief welcome. My name is Gerhard Apfelthaler. I'm the Dean of the School of Management here at Cal Lutheran. And the Entrepreneur Speaker Series, for which you're here tonight, is one of our activities. Of course, we do what other business schools also do. We provide programs on the undergraduate level, the graduate level, but the really exciting stuff that we do is happening in our entrepreneurship arena. We started those activities with and around entrepreneurship a few years ago with a fantastic community space for the startup community in our region called Hub 101. I hope that everybody is familiar with that and everybody has visited at least once. Who has? Few people. Keep coming. And when we started it a few years ago, we had, of course, a vision. But when I look at the room tonight, I think I can confidently say that the vision has become reality. We have become a focal point for the startup community, and we are starting to impact the careers of our students and graduates, as you will probably hear in a little while. And we're also starting to make an impact on the local economy, which makes hopefully everybody happy in this room. So I'm just the person who had an idea a few years ago, but now I let the person speak who is really making it happen. Mike Panesis, the director of our Center for Entrepreneurship. Mike.
Thank you, Gerhard. Well, welcome. This is by far the largest Entrepreneur Speaker Series crowd we've ever had. So it feels a little bit like church on Easter. And this is the point where the priest says, I'd like to see you all more frequently. So we have this Entrepreneur Speaker Series event every month. It's usually the first Wednesday of the month or the second Wednesday of the month. So if you're not on our email list, I'm hoping that you are now, that you've registered and come here. Please come to see our future events. Where's Emily Barony? Stand up. So Emily Barony is our next speaker. We might as well start by announcing our next speaker. Emily is an alum. And Emily did some incredible work during the Thomas Fire, getting help to people who desperately needed it. She's going to be our next speaker. Thank you, Emily. Okay, so we've got a couple of items to work to do before we get to Paul. I know you're all excited to hear Paul speak. I've seen him speak before. He's one of my favorite speakers. But there are a couple of things we do at every one of these Entrepreneur Speaker Series events. The first one is we give the community the opportunity to do an elevator pitch about their startup, or if you're someone who thinks they can help startups, we're going to have you raise your hand. We'll bring a mic to you. Don't move anywhere. And you can do a 60-second pitch about your startup or about how you can help or an event you're hosting. So who would like to do an elevator pitch? This young lady right here.
Check 1, 2.
Hi, I am a student here at Cal Lutheran. I'm one of the student organizers for FedEx Cal Lutheran, and I'm here hopefully to let you guys know about it and see if you guys will show up. It's being held this Saturday, October 6th. Check-in is 8:30 to 9:30. Event starts at 9:40, and it goes till 4. It's at Hub 101, Center for Entrepreneurship. In Westlake, which I think most of you guys raised your hand when you asked if you've been there. Yeah, so it's our first TEDx Cal Lutheran. I've spent a lot of time planning this along with my co-host Greg, who can't be here unfortunately, he's in lab, and with Mike, Ella, and Greg Monterosa, who disappeared. Oh, there he is. So yeah, if you would like to purchase a ticket, you can use the promo code CLU to buy them for $5. If you just Google TEDx Cal Lutheran, Eventbrite, or go to the Student Event Hub on Cal Lutheran's, I don't know if actually, do they have access to that? They do. All right, that's all. That's
Is there a promo code? Did you mention a promo code?
CLU.
CLU. Okay, good. Who else?
Hey, my name is Jim Hughes. Company is Brainwire Strategic Marketing. It's strategic marketing optimized for this hyper-driven world we live in. So as many of you know, you go to a website, you got to be able to see some honey there really, really quickly or you're gone, right? So that's what all communications are these days. You've got to be able to give people what they're looking for very, very quickly, and there's optimized ways of doing that. And so therefore, again, my name is Jim Hughes. If you're interested in talking more about getting your products understood, translating the complex to make it easily understandable and value building, I'm your guy. Thank you.
Who here experiences hot flashes? Hi, my name is David Lee. I'm an acupuncturist, local acupuncturist for 18 years. I've discovered simple acupressure method on acupuncture points to relieve hot flashes easily, quickly, at the convenience of your home. If you have any questions, just come and talk to me.
We don't scream at pitches, by the way. So you learn something every time.
My name is, is this okay? Can you hear this okay? My name is Scott Simsek. I'm not as brief as our chiropractor friend, but I went to college. I was our student body president at a major university, and I made a decision at 20 to be a millionaire. By the time I was 30, my net worth. And I set a goal, 400 weeks, did all the calculations, and had everything double. And I told my wife of 30 years, I said, honey, did you know that I signed 19 leases, commercial leases, before I was 28 years of age? She goes, I don't know. Tell me what they were. And I wanted to share something with you about how to become a millionaire before you're 30. It all starts in the decision-making process. I've recently written a book called There Is a Business for You, the 7 steps to matching you to the perfect business. I told my wife, we dated 4 years, I said, honey, the divorce occurs in the dating process. I said, everything is about decision making. I see so many young college graduates in their 20s and 30s that want to test entrepreneurship, but they don't have a decision making process. I'll offer all my time free. I'll let you have my book. It's not made for sale. I'll give it to you. How to hit your goal at $1 million before you're 30, all through critical decision making.
Thank you. Who else? Nobody? Oh. What's that? Yes, go.
Hi, I'm Robin Palmer. I'm the inventor of Life Bike portable exercise pedals. They're 3.5 pounds, they fold flat and fit in a bag, so you can burn calories, boost your mood, and energize at work, at your desk, at home. On planes, it prevents blood clots, which affect almost 1 million Americans every year. And I partnered with Mayo Clinic on it. It's NEAT certified, and all the patents are done. If you want to check it out, we're at Life Bike, like Save Your Life Bicycle, lifebike.co. Thank you. We're actually looking for even more investment than we've already gotten, so talk to me if you want. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Over here, Mike. We have one over here.
Hi, everyone. Is this on? Hello. Okay, very good. Hey, everyone. My name is Will Snap. I recently started a company called ErgoPoise. My whole mission is to go into a classroom and change the physical structure of the classroom environment to make kids succeed and perform better. Basically, I'm trying to reduce the sedentary classroom lifestyle and make it more movable and filled with motion. Kids, we're losing PE, we're losing recess, and in order for kids' brains to develop to the best potential, they need to be moving in a classroom. So I'm providing solutions going into schools and teaching them how to either use the current stuff they have to make it so they can have more movement in the classroom so their kids can develop their cognitive structure and their physical activity. And I'm also providing different furniture solutions in order to help them be moving more in the classroom. So if you have any questions on how to best be productive mentally and physically in a classroom, I'm here.
Thank you. Now I've got all the microphones. We have time for one more. Okay, 2 more. Since I have 2 microphones. But you're going to have to pass the microphones down. It's that one to Emily, too.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cameron, and not part of a startup, but I'm franchisee for a fast casual chain called Sharkys Woodfire Mexican Grill. And this program so far of the MBA has been really great for helping me build a greater hospitality experience for everybody, including everyone here. So if anybody has not heard of Sharkys, we have nearby locations. We have a Thousand Oaks location, but the one that my family and I operate is the Westlake Village one, so maybe I've seen you guys before. And the reason why I'm here for the MBA program is just to also build a greater network and be more experienced and get along the minds of everybody here that has become accomplished in entrepreneurship. So, and as far as the elevator pitch goes, just want to let you guys know that we do have catering. If you guys ever need lunch, for example, for your companies, we're there for you. We can accommodate to budgets. We have all range of food from the burritos, the tacos, what everybody's used to. We also have healthy foods as well, and that's one of the things that we stand for. Our core values, feeding people with good, whole, nutritious food. So if anybody's interested, feel free to reach out to me after the event, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the event.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Barney, and based on the work that we did at the Thomas Fire, I'm building a dating app that revolutionizes the way communities recover from disasters. And the thing that I need help with is tech nerd ninjas. So I don't know how to build an app. If you know something about that and could be an advisor, that'd be really helpful. And I'm incubating it at Hub 101.
Tech nerd ninjas, do they have to wear like the outfit? Yes. And have a sword? Cool. Okay, thank you. Thank you, entrepreneurs. If you think you can help anyone who you heard make a request, find them after the event, give them your business card. Okay? Now, we've got one more presentation to do before we get started with Paul's talk. Michael McCreary and I started at Hub 101 about the same time. Michael was one of our very first co-working members. Showed up as a solopreneur with an idea for a business, met some folks in the space who helped him get the business started, and he's back, was it 3 years later?
Almost.
To the cool thing about Pure Spectrum is they moved out. One of the interesting aspects of a business model for a co-working space is we want you to leave. We want you to grow up and go somewhere else. They moved into an office suite right near us so that they weren't too far away, which we love, and we love to see your continued success. And I'm going to turn it over to Michael because he's got an announcement to make.
Thank you. 2 minutes. Right. Yeah. Thank you. I'm Michael McCreary. It is a pleasure to be here. Some of you may have seen me speak on the starting and process of starting Pure Spectrum a few months back. We're still in business. It's a good thing. So I often don't understand the purpose of things when they're right in front of me. And when I started the journey to start Pure Spectrum, Hub 101 didn't exist, actually. It was a defunct thing called Huddle Campus, I think, and nobody worked there except for kind of Greg. So anyway, I got free rent for 4 months, so it was awesome because when you're doing a startup, there's nothing that's more important other than your vision than capital, right? So things like rent and electricity and furniture are just things you don't want to spend money on. Like capital is like air, right? So I didn't realize at the stage of business I was in that Hub 101, what it would become. I mean, this is amazing. There's probably 300 people here today. Many of them probably aspiring entrepreneurs or students, and it's just really cool to see. So I'm really proud that Pure Spectrum, which is a viable, profitable, really rapidly growing, we're almost up to 30 employees with plans to go probably to 45 or 50 next year. We don't even need more capital. We're actually organically funding the business now, which is super cool. And it's a tech business, right? So life cycles are important, right? So I know what I needed in the early days, and I was taking from Hub what it could give me, which was a cool creative space, right? If you're starting a tech business, if you go to Regis and you pay $1,000 a month, it just doesn't feel right, right? You're just not in the right environment. So being in the Conejo Valley, a guy with gray hair, you got to feel like you're going into a space that should feel like a tech place. But it was much more than that, right? The website or the application we built, I met our UI designer, UX UI designer. We still have almost the exact same UX UI 3 years later. And I met him because he was hanging out there too, right? My first hire of the business, right? I'm employee number 0, employee 01 who couldn't be here tonight because he worked till 3 in the morning rolling out a new product last night. I met because Alon Gorin was nice enough to send an email to his network, right? So that guy has turned into a rock star for our company. And so it's a community, right? I can honestly say that the company that I think will be a pretty important part of our community in Westlake Village. Like I see a vision 3-4 years from now where hundreds of people work at this company and I will do almost nothing. Except for probably try to focus eventually on how to make sure the Conejo Valley and Hub 101 becomes the important part, right? Because who here knows how far it is from San Francisco to Mountain View? Travis Miller. 40 miles. How far is it to downtown LA to Westlake Village, Hub 101? 40 miles, right? So I have a vision and a dream that this will be the tech hub of SoCal, right? And what you don't realize is that Hub 101 is the thing that'll make it happen. It's not me. It's not our business. We'll contribute, but we need a place for young talent to be able to come and just hang out amongst other young talent, right? We need programs that teach students who come out of universities with, degrees, but maybe not the skills that we're looking for in our business. I mean, everybody at our company needs to know something else. I need a place for my employees to be able to go and enhance their skills because we don't have the time or energy or skill set to be able to train them. Like, so how can I have people who are in client success learn how to be Python scripters, right? Or people who are in, one side of the business to learn data analytics, right? So at this stage of the business where we are now growing, like the oxygen and air for us is we need talent and we need a place to cultivate it, right? And I can't see anywhere else that this is going to happen outside of Hub 101. So that's my vision, right? So now I'm going to find out how I can take what I can out of Hub 101 to make this be important. But I also wanted to start and put my own money where my mouth is. And if Greg is standing, he should sit down because he knows how much I didn't like to spend money for so long, which is really important if you're an entrepreneur because capital is there. So it's just super important, right, to be able to give back. So I'm going to invite Molly Strawn, right, because one of the other things we've done is we've hired people from CLU and from Hub 101. And if we have students in the house, right, we're hiring. And we're looking for the best talent and ways to cultivate it. So I wanted Molly to be able to share kind of her experience of what we call adulting, right, where you go from school to life. And then we'll just kind of hand it back to Gerhard.
Thank you, Michael, for that. Adulting is simultaneously easier and harder than it sounds, actually. So, good evening, everybody. I'm so happy to be here, both for Hub 101 as a Cal Lutheran alum, and also for Pure Spectrum as our new marketing manager. I've been with Pure Spectrum since July of this year. So, to Hub 101, thank you so much for all the opportunities that you've brought me, Greg, Mike, Gerhard, everybody else out there. I would not be where I am without the network and the lifetime friendships and the skills that I've made at Hub 101. I'm very grateful for that. I want to speak a little bit about Pure Spectrum because I can say that without a doubt, I have never enjoyed what I do more. And I am so happy to be at this company that is full of the best, most fun, and most dedicated people I've ever had the honor of calling my team. This is a rigorous, demanding, but overly rewarding environment, and we want students here with us who are taking the next step in their careers and are up for the challenge. I do want to say that when you join the company at Pure Spectrum, We hire all of what makes you you. Your strengths, your weaknesses, your drive, your personality, your ambition, and your passion. We not only value the skills that you can bring to the table, but also how our team can help you reach your own definitions of personal and professional success as you start building your careers. We welcome the dreamers, the innovators, and anybody of any background to be part of something that's going to revolutionize an entire industry and introduce it to the technology of the future. And I'm so happy to be able to have met Michael through Hub 101 and to be where I am today, starting my career in marketing. So thank you for your time and listening to us. If you're interested, do find me. I have flyers with our information on it if you are a student and are interested in learning more about our career opportunities. So I'm going to turn it back over to Michael. Thank you guys so much.
Gerhard, if you would please. So my call to action to any other entrepreneurs in the area is to give to Hub 101, right? So by giving, you'll receive, right? So the vision is to make sure there are programs for continuing education that are professionally bound to technology, and to make sure that there's an environment that can grow and thrive. I want this to be much bigger, right, personally. So it is my pleasure and honor, and Greg, are you sitting? I am. Yeah. To present a check for $10,000 to Hub 101.
It's upside down, but it's okay. Greg, come up here. This belongs to you, Greg, really.
It's a group effort.
I'm trying to deposit it to the ATM.
So look at Kaya.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Thank you.
For us, this is our space at work. So this is exactly what we want to see on Hub 101. We want to see solopreneurs like Michael come in with an idea and a vision, and it's a place where you're able to form your team, build camaraderie, and bring a business to life. So, Michael, thank you for proving our business model. You are a rock star, and
Thank you.
We appreciate the check.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get on to our main speaker. I'm curious, how many of you met Paul personally tonight? If I have to characterize Paul as one of his characteristics, I've never seen anyone who's so good at customer discovery. He loves talking to people and learning about them genuinely. And I think that's at the heart of who he is. And I'm really interested to hear about this topic tonight, about being an owner. So without further ado, Paul Orfalea.
How you doing? Can you turn the lights up? Yeah. How y'all doing? Great. It's kind of dark in here. Yeah. So, how many of you heard me speak before? Oh, I'm going to bore you by telling you the same stories over again. I should give you a little background who I am. I'm very lucky in life. After these flattering things, I want to tell you, I've got 4 very good qualities. Does that sound conceited? Yeah. First great quality I have is I'm a horrible reader. In 2nd grade, Sister Sheila found out I didn't know the alphabet, and I was held back in 2nd grade, and all I remember is she had the blue paddle and paddled the hell out of me. Then I still couldn't figure out the alphabet, and I had to go to a school in Hollywood with 8 children. 2 were 18 years old, and I understood at the time if you had Down syndrome, you couldn't raise your head. So I was in the backyard of the school. I go, well, look at that airplane, and they couldn't raise their head. And I kept thinking, now, why am I in this school? I didn't belong there. I had to go to public school. I had to go to an eye doctor 3 days a week, look at stupid little eye circles, because they thought in those days eye muscles had something to do with eye reading. Wrong. I went to, how would you like to go to clinic school at UCLA? It was across the street from Marymount. It was a great school. But don't you feel like an idiot if you go into clinic school? And my parents said every word I ever read cost them $50. And when I was expelled from John Burroughs Junior High, Mr. McNamara said to my mother, you know, Mrs. Orfalea, one day if Paul really applies himself, maybe he can learn to lay carpet. And that was my highest aspiration in life. And so I went to high school, graduated 8th from the bottom of 1,200, and I don't know how 8 people beat me for the worst one in the class. But then I was my early reason for not studying was I figured the communists were going to take us over anyway, so I studied. Then in high school it was, well, I heard about junior college, I guess I can do it then. And then when the war in Vietnam was going on, I kept thinking, now let me think of this decision. I can go in an institution that really wants to accept me. You all wear the same clothes, you get to sleep outside, you get to carry a gun and maybe come home in a body bag. Or go to college, drink beer, and flirt with women. Now, I didn't see that really a difficult decision there. So I figured out how to get into USC through the back door. And I got accepted. And is USC famous for football? Very famous. Well, if you figured out how to get in football player classes, you knew they lowered the curve and you could get a C. So graduated from college, and I calculated my last 16 units could all be D's and I could graduate. But my diploma looks the same as everybody else's. Second good quality is feel my hands. What's the texture? Soft. Yeah, I have no mechanical ability whatsoever. I don't know how to do stick shift. I really never knew how to run the machines in my own business. I don't like machines. I'm not good at them. Third great quality is I'm extremely restless. I do not know how to sit still. I can't. You, Christy, were you at a meeting with me? Was I restless in meetings? Was I rude in meetings? I was sort of rude. No, I can't sit still. And I honestly, I don't believe in this thing called ADD. I think the world's kind of boring. And if it bores me, I got to admit it. I'm bored. So it's not my fault. But I can't sit still. Why was that? Why was I lucky to have that quality? In my business, my job was going store to store to store looking for what people were doing right. Could I make more money hovering in my office, worrying about the bills, or discovering an opportunity? So I was always looking around. I was never too busy. If I tell you my career, first of all, do you think I'm capable enough to write letters? Or do you think I'm capable? I'm not a capable person. I really don't know how to run machines. I can't fill out a form. I'm really not a capable person to do tasks. So I figured out I'm really good at one thing. I know how to get out of work. So I will be candid with you. In my entire career at Kinkos, I never worked more than 8 hours a week. I never had more than 8 hours of work to do a week. My job was to be the owner and look around and look at opportunity. When I get to what it means to be an owner in a minute, how many hours a day can you all work in this room? Can anybody in this room work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? No. But guess what works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Your savings and your ideas. Can your ideas work harder than you can? Can your savings account collect rent, collect interest, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? What works harder, me or my capital or my ideas? For an example, one of the stores in San Diego had these calendars. You ever seen one of our calendars? You take 12 of your family pictures and you put them in a calendar. December is a bad month for Xeroxing. Do you sort of think that discovery was a lot of money? Could I spend, how much money do you think I could have made? Do you think I made more money finding an opportunity like a calendar or hovering in that office that drove me out of my mind, going to meetings? I just didn't. So, you know my 3 good qualities. Do you want to hear my 4th good quality? Does anybody know anybody Lebanese in this room? Do you know anybody that's Lebanese that has a job? You have your own business. Basically, I was raised not to work for other people. And I think this goes to my view of education and school. What does school do? School's about making good employees. School trains you to sit still and be obedient and be graded by other people. If your child, 5 years old, comes home with a painting from school, what do you tell them? What? Looks great. Looks great, good job. I hate to say it, that's the absolutely wrong thing you can say. Because from the very beginning of life, we teach children to please others rather than please themselves. It's more important to say to the child, why did you do it? Tell me about blue in that picture. What we are doing is we're making a bunch of people pleasers in education. I just taught at Loyola. I teach at USC last night. It isn't what you think of yourself, it's how you're measured. And we get our definition from others. I think something, so I was raised to be an owner. And an owner thinks about the world completely different than a manager or a worker. For an example, today in the paper, Elon Musk got fired from the board of directors. He should never have been on the board of directors. When I graduated from business school, the board represented the owners and the executives were the president of the companies. All of a sudden, we got this person that does both jobs. An owner is on the board of directors, and the only thing the real board really does, they should have an hour-long meeting. The only purpose of a board of directors is to fire the management. Really, if you're happy, they're happy with their numbers, keep them there. But what other job does a board have? They represent ownership. I was an owner of my business. And how do you view life? How do you view life as an owner? An owner values time, their own time. And I reflected back for this talk on my childhood. Do you like the talk so far? You sure? Okay. Whew. This one I'm going to say is very controversial. When you examine your childhood, did you call your friends or did your friends call you? Now for me, I was too selfish. I called my friends when I wanted to talk to them. I didn't like to be visited. I wanted to visit you at your house. That's a thing about owning your own time. It starts early in life. Are you an owner? An owner means more than just having money, having your own business, etc. It's owning time. Now, you can have all these nonsense possessions you got to dust, look at, worry about. Or you say, really, what does money mean to you? It's about going to a nice meal and not worrying about the price. You know, I hate chicken. And I remember when I was younger, and I was so price conscious, I had to buy the chicken on the menu. I don't like chicken. Now, what's nice is you get to buy steak, and you don't worry about it. And then I used to think, you know, what's kind of cool about having money is you look at the credit card bill from the gas station, you don't worry about the price of the gas. What is it? It's about time. And I know I might have more money in life, but I'm always having less moments in time. And it's your relationship with time that's important. Now, I noticed in my own business that people were very, very busy doing what they doing yesterday's work. It's not that they did anything wrong, but you talk to somebody that's very, very, very horribly busy, and you get a guy like me coming along and saying, hey, let's try something new. What do you think they're going to look at me and say, you're out of your mind. I can't do it. I'm busy. I'm already so busy. Is busyness your friend? I don't think busyness is your friend. I think a good night's sleep and a good rest and say, what the hell's really going on over there might be a little better off than going in and hovering in that office. What's really my problem today? Like for me, I'd drive home from those horrible days at that office, and something wasn't here. And it took a long drive to say, something bothered me. I saw something that didn't add up today. You can't get it at work. You need to have some perspective. A lot of us have horrible guilt problems of being in that office. How many of you ever had a creative thought in your office? So, being an owner, what does it mean? You own your own life. You view things as an owner. Now, I'm going to give you, what do you want to hear next? I'll tell you my biggest problem in business. Is when I started the business, you notice I didn't like being in the stores. I like leaving. Now, if you like to leave a store, I have two ways of treating an employee, a worker. I could go like this. Who's got the last laugh, a worker or the owner or the boss? You go like this to a worker, aren't they going to hit you 10 times harder? They fudge in their hours. They contaminate you with bad customer service. They steal from you. Who's got the last laugh, me or the worker? So I figured out, if I go like this, they're going to hit me harder. Don't I want to go like this? Don't you think anybody ringing a cash register with my name on the deposit slip, I'm going to kind of like, I'm happy you're depositing that money? Right. So that's been the attitude we've had towards our coworkers. But did you get that from being a manager or by being an owner? Now, you could just tell when you go to some place, if the owner is there. I went to that barbecue place up here, and you could tell the owner was there. There's such a difference. Well, I own a bowling alley, and I want to empower the person in charge of the bowling alley to say, hey, all of you bowlers, I'm so happy you joined the league. Here's a free round of drinks on the house. Let's say you own a big company, and they're measuring the hell out of your managers and their pouring cost. Do you think they're going to do all those little gracious things? No. The idea is an owner ingratiates themselves. An owner, I was talking to a guy who owned a hamburger business in Santa Barbara. And he said something that's absolutely correct. I said, why don't you have the NFL package? And he says, we're not open on Sundays. The NFL package costs me $100 a month. I only make 10% profit, so I'll have to do $1,000 in business. Does that make sense? Absolutely the wrong way to analyze the problem. Absolutely. An owner would never analyze it like that. An owner would say, my pouring cost is 20%. My food cost is 30. My weighted average is 25 cents on the dollar. Isn't that how an owner would say? I've already got my rent. I've got the people working there. I got all the overhead. My only variable cost for every extra customer is 25 cents on the dollar. Is that right? You agree with me? Because you buy a can of beer at the liquor store for 50 cents, 75 cents, you sell it for $4. So you can validate that his cost of goods sold is 25 cents on the dollar. So if his average ticket is $20, how many customers does he need to break even? He needs, say he does 6 customers. That's $160 in sales. He has to pay the NFL $100. His food cost is 25 cents on 160. That would be $40. Did he make $20 extra profit? Did he make $20 extra? Do you follow the math? I don't think you really did. Let's do it again. An owner says, it costs me 25 cents, I sell it for $1. I don't have to pay any more rent. I've got all my labor, I got everything covered. The only thing it's going to cost me is my hamburger meat and the liquor cost. I need a total of 8 customers to break even for the NFL package. That's how I would calculate it. The Other folks that work for big companies say, well, I only make 10% profit. I'm going to need 1,000 customers or 50 customers to break even. Absolutely the wrong way to look at it. You understand an owner versus a manager. I could tell you so many stories. I sold my business to these pea-brains, and they just... they were Harvard, Yale types. You want to hear my favorite story? How an owner thinks versus pea-brains from Harvard, Yale. Okay. Now, every 4 years, we have a thing called leap year. An astounding concept. I pay my rent on a monthly basis, don't I? That one extra day, is that all marginal profit? I mean, I paid everybody by the month. So one extra day of revenue is, in my case, my cost of goods sold at Kinkos is about 20 cents on the dollar. So that extra day, if it was a weekday, I could say 80 cents on the dollar is marginal profit. Is that correct? So let's say every leap year is called Owner's Day. Okay. Now, do you think you have to take a lot of LSD and drugs to say, every 4 years there's an election? Do you think every 4 years, especially in California in the year 2000, they moved every state in the union, virtually moved all their primaries to March 4th? Would you say, I got a funny feeling these politicians are going to do some Xerox copying, making some posters? Would you say that took a lot of wild thought? Okay. So I'm in the final process of negotiating with the pea-brains of New York. I got them up $20 a share. Also, March. What do you know about March and April? After leap year, the calendar skips one day. You know your birthday, if it's on a Tuesday, after leap year, it goes to a Wednesday. Those 2 extra days, if they're weekdays versus weekend days, those are called owner's days. Is that right? And then, you know, God dies sometimes in March and sometimes in April. I don't know why. He's something to do with the moons or something. So if God dies in April, it's better for March. I wasn't being a blasphemer here. It just happens to be Easter falls in March or April. Now, do you got a funny feeling if Easter falls in April, March might be a good month? So I got my check in April. And they had a little meeting in April. And you imagine new people, they threw me off the board because I was too irascible. But can you imagine new people? I sold the business cash check, and they go, why is this the first month we've ever decreased in sales? Well, couldn't you guys have read a calendar? You could have talked to anybody in the field, and they would have said, we're going to have a rough time in April. The calendar's not working in our benefit. Can you imagine all of those pedigree degrees, the accountants, the lawyers, all this pedigree couldn't lower themselves to talk to a normal human being and say, have we got a little problem in April? Who knows your business the best? The people in the lunchroom. You want to understand what's going on? Go eat lunch with your workers. Who knows how to run the hotel the best? The guest. How much time do we spend on our customers? How much time do we spend with our customers? Our workers. You only do 3 things in business. It's very simple. 3 things. Motivate your workers, understand your customers, and balance your checkbook. Now, as an owner, I was a good owner. I would never have hired. You only need one of me around an organization. You don't need any more. I would never have hired myself, ever. I was a good owner. Now, what are you writing down?
Wisdoms.
What was it? What was so good?
The big 3. The big 3.
You like that?
Yeah.
Oh, good. What?
But not in April.
So, my biggest challenge, you might examine yourself in the mirror. Biggest problem in reflecting on that business. I work with very, very busy people. We had very small stores when we started. What did we want for the leader of that store? Somebody that was very compulsive, knew everything about things, is that right? Had 2 or 3 workers, knew where everything was, right? Very compulsive, knew everything about things. I leave a business with 40, 50 workers, open 24 hours a day, with the characteristics of the leader back then, the same characteristics we wanted in a 24-hour day, 7 days a week business. The biggest problem I had is to go from a business based on things to a business based on motivating people. The biggest mistake we made is we'd say, you're very good at running machines. You should be a manager. Wrong decision. And you have to examine yourself. And this is a mistake a lot of people make. Do I feel comfortable with the ambiguity of employees? Going home every night not knowing where I stand. You're probably better off not having employees, not being an owner. Just do it by yourself. I have a cousin that had a lithographics business. He had no employees. Every night he went home and knew exactly where he stood financially. And I don't think he ever realized I was very envious of him because I never knew where I stood. I had all the vagaries of competition coming out to wipe me out. Employees and all that. So you got to examine yourself. Can you handle all the anxiety it takes to be an owner? You're the last to be paid. And if you do get paid, the government says, oh, by the way, I'll take mine first. I mean, it's very hard. Balancing the checkbook. You have a growing business. You have more receivables. You have more inventory. But the government says, by the way, you got a little bit of cash there? We'll take it away from you. So it is hard. And it takes a little bit of, to be an owner, takes a little bit of exhaustion. Now, my mother said, I followed her advice. Honey, in your 20s, I want you to try everything in life. Try it all. In your 30s, start figuring out what you do best in life. In your 40s, make money from what you do best. In your 50s, don't try to do too much. I admired my Uncle Nick and Uncle Emil. They came back from World War II. They lived in my grandmother's apartment building, saved their money. They were bartenders. They bought the bar. Then they bought the liquor stores. And then they ended up buying real estate. And guess what their biggest decision was when they were 50 years old? Where am I going to eat lunch today? Is it Greek or is it Italian? Don't you want to live like that? Is there a purpose to making money that's besides the stupid business? I get really irritated when people say, I love my business. You do not love your business. You love your family. You enjoy your business. Your business is an instrument to make you happy. You own it. It does not own you. And your business ceases to make you happy, you get the hell out of that business. It's about your life and what makes you happy because you're an owner. You own your life. You don't let anybody else own you. Now, do you like the story so far? Now, as a good Lebanese boy, my dad had a business. He was an infant. You learn, what are the first words you learn? Mom, Dad. It's deductible. Now, let's examine deductibility. Now, everybody used to think we were the best. Did they like working with our company? And did we have daycare? Yes. Do we have free lunches on Friday? Do we have good health benefits? Do we have pension benefits? Do we have free college education? We help workers children with college education. She got a scholarship. Now, the power of deductibility. Now, I'll give you an example. At work, the workers thought we were the greatest things to slice bread because we had a free lunch on Friday. Now, let's examine the numbers, because an owner looks at numbers, right? Don't get me wrong, I like money. You don't think, I was into it for the money. No. It cost me $2 for the lunch. Now, to pay a worker $2, didn't it cost me $3 to write that check? Because the government says, by the way, some Social Security here, the withholdings, that's what. If we bought the lunch, it was $2, it cost them $3. Now, an income tax person says, well, by the way, you made $2, Paul. We're going to take $1 away from you. So it costs me $1, or it costs the workers $3. Does it make sense to have everything deductible? The government's helping you pay for that daycare. Now, do you think the only thing I had going for me in my business was I sold my business to the bozos from New York. I said, they asked me, what's my competitive advantage? I said, it's a smile on my worker's face. It's the attitude they have. And my brother's in the room, and they could tell he's got this pothead from California over here. You know what I mean? They didn't understand. But it really is. That was the attitude of my workers. So I'm always figuring out, as an owner, how much do I pay? How much is deductible? And what's my marginal benefit from paying enough but not too much? Aren't I saying that? I can't pass up the bargain of deductibility. So, am I cold, calculating, or am I altruistic? I want to say that I was cold and calculating. Now, I used to tell people I worked with, I didn't get married till I was 36 years old. I didn't get married till I was 36 years old. I'd go to my mother's house. She'd say, honey, when are you going to get married? Life doesn't begin till you have your children. So every time I'm going to my mom's house, she's saying, honey, you've got to get married. So I said, Mom, don't ever ask me again when I'm going to get married. So she said, okay, Paul, I'll never ask you when you're going to get married. But when I look at you, you'll know what I'm thinking. So I told everybody I worked with, it's about the money. I don't care. I don't like to read. I don't like Xerox copies. I don't like binding machines. I don't care about this thing. I'm going to do it for the money. And the funny thing about it, the stores that made the most money had the most satisfied workers and the happiest customers. It is not a sin to make money. I used to think sometimes, it's just unbelievable how some people could lose money in that business. You'd put like this, dial the button, push the button, and ring a register. But I generally had people that could lose money in that situation. So I sold my business, prevented my coronary. And I have 2 children. I've noticed in children. One child always has to be entertained by others. The other one could entertain themselves. I was always the kind of person that could entertain myself. I did not have a real rough time with the transition from Kinkos to wherever. What was so liberating after I sold that business is I got to wake up every morning thinking about what I wanted to think about. There is life after work. And you cannot let your business own you. You own it. It does not own you. I'll give you an example. I had 7 stores. The phone was driving me out of my mind. I couldn't take the phone. So I got a manager, called me up. Said, Paul, I got a bounced check in the mail. What do I do? And I thought, what do? You go after the guy who wrote you the check. You called me for that? And I kind of thought, now who's stupid, me or him? I was stupid by taking that phone call. I should have set up a system where the people thought for themselves. I became inaccessible after that phone call. You could not, could anybody ever call me or walk in my office? No. No, you couldn't just walk down. You couldn't just say, hey, Paul, it's time to give you a turd right now. No, I just did not. No, they could figure it out for themselves. I was not accessible for silly problems. A lot of executives, I found, feel guilt-ridden if they're not in the center of attention and everybody needs them for every little decision. The best executives or the best owners get out of the way. It's common sense. I do not want to. If you ask me a stupid question, you're going to know about it. Because I don't want an organization that they aren't self-starters and think for themselves. It's not that confusing, is it? If you have a business based on common sense, people think for themselves. The best definition of management, the only reason you have a boss is to remove obstacles. The only reason you have executives is to make sure that workers are more productive. Does it make sense for an organization to say, let's go make our people more productive so I can be important? Your only job is to run interference. If your workers have a problem with their health care, that's your problem. Whatever it takes to get those people in there and motivated and solve their problems. You've got to, so you might ask yourself, do I remove obstacles for my workers? Am I too busy? Am I my own worst enemy? Do I build an organization around me or around my customers? Do I own my business or does it own me? Do I know how to do my basic math to say, well, you know, the accountants are right, I only make 10% profit, but guess what? It's all extra profit if I open those extra hours. I'll tell you a funny story about 24 hours. You ready? Do you have any questions you want to ask me up till now? No? Why don't you ask me, what about 24 hours? Ask me. Yeah. Okay, that's a good question. Okay. Do you have a glass of water? Thank you. Okay, I always spent, you know, I told you already, I'm not a guilt-ridden owner. I did not feel like I had to set an example. I had to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning. I owned it. It didn't own me. And I didn't believe that I had to work by example. I owned it. I don't have to be there if I don't want to be. Okay. So I would take, I'd go to these courses like at Harvard and Virginia. I'd go at least a week a year to a classroom to sharpen my skills. Believe it or not, me in school. All right. I went to Harvard for 3 weeks for 3 years, and this guy owned these convenience markets called Sheets' Markets in Pennsylvania. He told me a story at lunch. I was barely listening to him. He said, in our convenience markets, we would do, say, $4,000 a day in business. But we would close from midnight to 6 in the morning because we'd only do $40 in business. They took the little stopwatch. He says the zinger, for some unknown reason, our daytime business dropped 50% because we closed those few hours. What did he tell you? He told me, if you open 24 hours a day, your daytime business doubles, didn't he? Now, I doubled my business by opening those few hours. Now, I sell the business to these pre-veins, and guess what? They take their little stopwatch, and they go, McKinsey comes in for $2 million and says, guess what? You're not making money 24 hours a day. And guess what the bozos did? Didn't stay open 24 hours. Isn't the art of business seeing what isn't there rather than what's there? Anybody can see what's there. But isn't it what isn't there? Is that what an owner does? Does an owner see what's not there? Does the owner say, I really want to rest? Now, I'll tell you the secret of life. My mother only cared about two things. Two things. And one of them, they both began with an S. Do you think one of them was school? No. She cared about, are you saving your money and are you sleeping? The elixir of life is sleep. It comes to you in your sleep. Your problems are solved in your sleep. For some reason, we have a bunch of sleep-deprived children. Sleep is the elixir. Everyone wants a healthy this, healthy that. What's more healthy than a good night's sleep? If you're depriving yourself of a good night's sleep, you're depriving yourself of your imagination. You know what's interesting about a student? If you took an encephalograph, what you learn in the daytime gets expressed in your dreams. So if you're building little spider webs of knowledge through sleep. Sleep is the elixir. I was a good sleeper. I told you about 24 hours. I didn't think about it for 2 days. I woke up in the middle of the night and I came to me in my sleep. I know what that guy told me. He said, you dope in 24 hours a day, daytime business doubles. It comes from sleep. It comes from a rested mind. Did you like the story so far? What did you like the best? Save your money? It's not really confusing. What?
So I have a question. Now that you've sold the business, what is your passion?
I got a lot. I find, first of all, I like my free time and I get bored, but I like teaching school. And I like the philanthropy we're doing. One of them is I think school has really lost its way. The test takers have taken over education. For an example, in Santa Barbara, half the Hispanic community don't know how to swim. Their children don't know how to swim. We have children in Santa Barbara that have never been to the ocean. Do you think it's more important for a child to know how to swim or the Pythagorean theorem? I think it's very important for a child to know how to swim. We now have, we're trying to get the school to adopt a policy that every child knows how to swim. We've instituted biking policies where a child learns how to ride a bike. And it's been successful in school. Can you imagine going to school and not knowing how to ride a bike? That's childhood 101. Pythagorean theorem is not childhood. I believe in orthodonture. And you go to the Title I schools, and I believe orthodonture gives society a compounded rate of return. A child has a healthy smile, they get a better job prospects, they're likely to go to college, there are less incarcerations. I believe that orthodonture has a compoundable rate of return for society. So we have a program for various schools. I think if you get an inner seed, my new pet project is we've already done this, but nutrition. I'm proud to say that Santa Barbara Unified just got rid of all cold cuts and hot dogs. It's in the news. We have good food in Santa Barbara, and we have school gardens. If you can get a child to learn the difference between textured food and mushy food at 5 years old, it'll change their life for nutrition for the rest of their life. My newest cause came to me today. I'm going to try to get on those stupid little tests they all take in school. Why can't we have a little bit of nutrition on that test other than that's algebra and geometry and all that stuff? Do you think you do you ever go to the market and say, they went to school and they're buying that Coca-Cola, they're buying that. How do they go to school and miss the horrible parts of food? So that's my new cause. I'm really going to make an effort to get the sack of tomatoes and to get the SAT to have nutrition on the SAT. we various programs. We go deep into a school, and I think you can make a difference. And I'll be honest with you, don't tell my children this. I don't see working my ass off so my daughter-in-law can have a Jaguar. I'm kind of giving it all away. I don't see any purpose for it. I mean, I keep thinking, like, if I was the wealthiest man on earth but I had to die, like, what good does it do? I mean, so, and I get a great pleasure out of the philanthropic side of the house. I never thought I would, but I enjoy that. I enjoy teaching school. We have a similar business, and he's a shareholder, and the Impact Hub in Santa Barbara. And I enjoy that. I'm pretty much enjoying everything right now. Yeah, it's nice. The sad part is I'm really interested in the whole world, but I'm going to die, and I really want to see how it ends up. Like, I'm really interested in Trump getting reelected, if he does or doesn't. I'm just fascinated on the whole thing. And I just try to figure out the world. It's fun, putting all the puzzles together. I just like it. I think the whole planet's so damn interesting. So I hope I'll never die of boredom. But I could go to coffee shops and have conversations with strangers. I find it interesting. Yeah, obviously, reading isn't my thing. So, I love television. I can watch TV for hours. I love it. Love television. Do you like television? I admit it. A lot of the snobs say, oh, I have to read a book. I'm not reading any books. I remember sitting at the store one day. Well, first of all, when I started my business, I was at USC finishing up my last few units of D's. And I had to go back and forth, so I only worked Tuesdays and Thursdays. So after 2-3 months, I hired a manager for the first location. And wasn't he the CEO? And I was the owner. I've been managing big shots my whole life. So how did I make that? I think I was always viewed life as an owner. And it comes from, also, I noticed in my family that my parents knew how to, and all my uncles and aunts, they knew how to have their business and they knew how to enjoy their family. And there was a steel wall between work and home. And I really noticed that it's very important to have that steel wall. What good does it do if you can't enjoy your life? So, and I always, so, you know, another big secret to getting out of work? Leave for 3 weeks. If you leave for 3 weeks, the first week you come back, you have 2 weeks of work. You go away for 2 weeks, you have 1 week of work. You go away for 3 weeks, they figured it all out for themselves. Yes? Kinkos? Well, I had this curly hair. And prior to being called Kinko, my nickname was Pubehead. So I got a promotion being called Kinkos. And my nickname was Kinko. And when you think of it, it's a good name for a business because if you have a name with strong consonants, Google, Xerox, Kodak, you'll always remember it. If you say Orchid, you'll never remember Orchid Copy Shop. You'll say Kinkos. It's got strong consonants. I regret calling it Kinkos after my name. If my mother was alive today, she'd really be upset for all the attention I've gotten from society. She'd say, honey, your kids will get kidnapped. You don't need all this attention. I'm serious. And I was raised to duck for cover. You just do not want to be. You want to be under the radar. Unfortunately, the business got bigger. There's a fortunate and unfortunate part of it. But I do think that my ego could have jeopardized my family's security. So, torn between two lovers.
I'll defer to the other.
All right.
So thank you very much for a very grounded, comprehensive talk. Two questions. First question, as you have seen your business grow and be more successful from a financial standpoint, the team or the folks who started with you when you were younger and small, as your company starts to mature and grow, you have been able to rise to the levels needed. How did you feel and how did you treat folks who were not able to rise to the level? And sometimes you would feel entitlement because they're a bit used to the example. And related to that, how has money impacted social settings?
Oh, that's a good. I like the second one better. I do think. I think that sometimes you wonder, do they like me for me, or is it the money or my reputation that they like? And it does cross your mind, and money does interfere with intimacy of friendships. And I do think there's a pecking order among men that the money does is kind of like a hidden thing there. So it does affect your social life. The second one, the first question is, I believe a lot in profit sharing. And so I'd rather have a little bit of something good rather than a whole lot of something bad. And I sort of got that from my brother was a banker. And they'd get these big loans, and they were too much for one bank, so they'd syndicate the loan out. So I just figured if I make somebody a partner, I'll give them all the headaches, and I'll keep some of the profits. So that's what we did. And I also, when I started our business, in microeconomics, there's a concept called pure competition. Pure competition is easy entry and exit from the market, a homogeneous product, and prices are the reason why people buy. When I started my business, I was making Xerox copies. It's the same stupid white paper anybody else had. Anybody could get a stupid Xerox machine and come compete with me. And I'm on a college campus where the government had better Xerox prices, better paper prices, and cheaper labor and free rent. How am I going to compete with these people over here? Well, I figured out how to do it through better customer service, longer hours, etc. What was your question again, if I'm answering it right? Oh, did I share the wealth? Okay, so I want to open a location in Fort Collins, Colorado. My biggest problem was my customer. I got into this business because I saw people in line. Here I'm a greedy person, and I say, well, they're in line at USC. Why wouldn't the same people go to USC Santa Barbara and be in line? So I'm in Colorado State, for an example. They see my customers in line. My workers knew how much money I was taking in. How hard is it for them to go across the street and compete with me? I was always baffled I didn't have more competition, because I would have competed with myself in a heartbeat. So I made them partners. We did a lot through profit sharing. You got them addicted to those profit checks. And it went down for every worker in the company had a profit sharing program. So that was a big problem, how to keep people loyal, how to get them addicted to money and profit. And we did share the wealth, but I got my share. I had to have something. Okay. No, but I did, I took care of myself. Do you want me to tell you a little secret I shouldn't tell you? It comes from Machiavelli. Don't think worse of me if I say this little secret. Give the money, keep the glory. No, give the glory, keep the money. Now look at the military. Anybody in the right mind would say, there's a gun over there, I'm not going after that gun. I'm just not going to do it. They give you a ribbon in the military, you can't wait to do it. They do a lot with recognition, don't they? There's nothing wrong with recognition. People do a lot for recognition. So I found that people like recognition, and it was a way to motivate folks. People, but I was really motivated about the money. Me.
one of the biggest challenge has been how do you keep an intimate, unified marriage? My parents grew up in the Midwest. It was about tradition and commitment. Today's expression of marriage is about happiness. How do you build a happy marriage in a world of demanding entrepreneur life?
And yeah, and all of a sudden they have children, and you kind of become subordinated to the children. Good question. Most marriages, I believe, fail because they treat their wives like secretaries, and they don't make the mental break from work to home. And it wasn't hard for me because my wife was the authority figure at that house, and I just did what I was told. And, my dad was a good role model. My dad came home and tried to input something about a couch color. And my mom looked at my dad and said, I'm not going to your business telling you what kind of filing cabinets to buy. Don't come home and tell me what kind of couch to buy. So we have to wrap up. Okay. So I was raised where I lived at home. I just was a playmate for the kids. My wife really had a real rough time because I was not an authority figure at that house. And I did not want to be an authority figure at home. So it is hard to, I believe, balance your marriage. I wasn't successful. We lost a child, but we kept our marriage together. We ultimately got divorced. But I'm not proud of that. It's hard. And I do think I think marriage should be a priority. And I don't know if executives and big shots that make it a priority. And, I admired Ronald Reagan because he was always so deferential to his wife. And I thought that was kind of cool. I never was as deferential as he was. But I always admired him. And I made a lot of mistakes. But I had fun at home. Yeah, and I really did have fun. I think it's, to be successful in life, you have to have three things in balance: work, love, and play. All three in balance make you a successful person. Can you imagine running a 24-hour-a-day business if you didn't have a balanced life? How many people want to follow a leader that's tired, haggard, and miserable? If you can't manage yourself, you can't lead people. So in our company, we encouraged a balanced life. I believe that that's fundamentally important. And so at the beginning of the year, I would plan my vacations first thing. And I took at least 6 weeks off a year, every year. Because, what the hell was I? I'm the owner. What the hell am I going to do? Get in the way? If I go to the office, I'm going to find things to do. People knew what to do. It wasn't that confusing. If it was confusing, they could figure it out for themselves. I mean, really, what did they need me for? I controlled the major variables in that business. And they couldn't possibly, I couldn't have any decision when I'm not there I could bet the farm on. My dad manufactured women's clothes. He makes a few bad decisions, he's out of business because he always has to redesign his product. For me, I wasn't doing that. I didn't fight my inventory. Another thing I had going for me, well, I'll tell you a couple, but I have a question over here. I'll tell you, this is a good one, but if you want to hear this other anecdote, somebody?
Well, I was going to say thank you. I was the beneficiary in college of one of your ideas. At least I think it was your idea. Where your college and the textbook costs $100 here, costs $100 there. You could easily spend $1,000 in textbooks. Instead, you could go to Kinkos and get a $50 compendium that has a chapter from this book, a chapter from that book, another chapter from another book, and for $50 get something that would otherwise cost $100.
Uh-oh. Well, drives.
So that's kind of like one of the major
Well,
ideas.
okay, here's what happened. I told you I like to wander. So I'm wandering around the college campus, and I see the reserve book room. And I go, well, back in those days, the professor would leave things at the reserve book room, and they'd say to the students, well, read the book before the test. The students are going to read the book. They're not going to night before the test. In the organic chemistry department, the kids would razor blade out the chapter so no one else could read that. So I had a little flyer, had 5 misspellings, but I stuffed all the mailboxes, say, hey, from now on, professors, leave things on file with us as well as the reserve book room. That program took off unbelievable around the country. At that point, I knew I had a concept I could take to every college campus in America, which we did. But guess who didn't like the idea of me doing that? Every publisher in the country sued.
Why did they take so long?
What?
Why did they take so long?
I was wondering that same thing. Well, you know, because I didn't give them jurisdiction to the Second Circuit. The Second Circuit is New York. And once I went to New York, I knew I made a mistake. And we did the program, and they sued me in their backyard. The publishers view the Ninth Circuit, which we're in, as a bunch of Zulu crazy people. And so they got jurisdiction back there. And do you remember how Germany beat Poland? It wasn't much of a war. Well, we were sort of like Poland. They just annihilated us. And I told you I was a good student. I got an award from the President of the United States for being a bad student. So I was in the waiting room of the White House. I don't think I ever told anybody. And there's a guy named Jim Lair. He was there. And I went up to Jim Lair prior to this occasion. And he did something about his heart attack and pastrami sandwiches. I said, I love that show, Jim. We started talking. Going to the publishers. The publishers had invited me to a big speech. They kicked my ass in the process of writing an injunction to wipe me out of business. And I went up to Jim Lair and I said, hey, do you remember me? And Jim Lair gave a speech saying to the publishers saying, don't be afraid of technology. It's going to be here, blah, 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 blah. Thank God they wrote an injunction I could stay in business. That was in 1990. They could have easily written me out of business. But it was fortunate I ran into Jim Lair. And I do think because of my academics, I got an award. I got the award from the president because I overcame my reading advantage. Who had another question?
In terms of employee engagement, so do you have any suggestions or any guidelines that business owners should follow where they are pursuing greater engagement with the employees, but also keeping a distance and maintaining boss-employee relationship? I feel that I can sometimes get a little bit too personal with them, and so want to respect me as a superior going forward.
Well, there's a fine line. You can't over-fraternize with your people. You got to keep familiarity, but you can't over-fraternize. And that's a fine line. You got to balance. And there's no easy remedy for that. One of the things I had going for me at our business is they didn't need me to motivate them. Our customers walked in, and they didn't know what the hell they wanted when they walked in the door. I would say my customers were basically uptight and confused. They didn't know what they wanted it yesterday. So as the owner, we managed the decor. So if we had the decor in red and yellow, do you think these people might be a little more uptight? Those are excitable colors. We did everything in blue and calm. We had our workers dressed like Republicans. So by running that interference for our workers, first, so the customer lowered their tension. The second thing is a junior person in society, say a high school person, is talking to a bank president about their project. And the junior person says to the senior person, this is how you should do it, blah, 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 blah. And they feel important because they're talking to a senior person and suggesting something. Third most important thing is the worker saw the end product and the thank you from the customer. Now, I didn't have to get involved in that relationship. It was so self-satisfying for the workers, that relationship, I got out of the way. I could see it right away. They don't need my help in this relationship. And so it went to my skill sets. I didn't like being in the stores anyway. I like to wander around. Yeah. Yes?
So as your business grew, I was wondering if you could say a few words about how you dealt with strategy and restructuring. I mean, did you find it necessary, or was it still such an organic process?
Oh, man, you needed a guy like me because it was fundamentally fundamentally, I was always fighting my cash. I didn't borrow a lot of money. I grew organically. The business I started would not be viable 10 years later. So you always had to reposition yourself. Finally, I didn't have a strategy for the laser printer. And I got out before it wiped me out. And it was really hard because I didn't believe in the future of the business, yet I had to sell it. I had to convince all of our workers we had a future. But I fundamentally lost faith in my own business. I was always the guy in my own business across the street thinking about how I was going to wipe myself out. I was fully paranoid 100% of the time in that business. And I felt gratified because when Andy Grove said, even paranoids have enemies, I felt good about that. I did, man, they were out to wipe me out, all my competitors. And the biggest thing was that laser printer at home could do so much more than you could ever do at Kinkos. And I could see it coming. But it was very hard to know on your intuitive side that there's not I got some real problems here. But everybody loved that business. They really loved that business. And I hated it. I really did not like it. And if you fall in love with your business, you're making a big mistake. You've got to keep that objective thing. You've got to say, what the hell is it all about? And is there a viable? If you're not doing that, you got a problem. And I was always there thinking about how I was wiping myself out. And ultimately, they wiped me out. But I was out in time.
We have time for one more question.
Yes. Oh, and I was talking about the NFL package. Oh, the NFL package costs $100 a week. And you only needed 8 customers to pay that $100 a week. Yet the guy running the business thought they needed 50 customers to pay for the NFL package. Now, I bring that up, and I do lose people in that anecdote because it's basic math to me, but I think it might be, I think fundamentally we have an arithmetic deficiency in this country. We've skipped numbers and went to the alphabet too soon in algebra and geometry. And if I ask my student what 5% of 100 is, they look like they have deer in the headlights. Arithmetic is your friend, and I promise you, we have skipped in school too much. We've skipped basic arithmetic. And if you don't have that machine, you don't have a relationship with numbers. And numbers are so cool. I love numbers. I'll tell you, the biggest thing I miss the most in my business is the constant input of numbers. I'm addicted to numbers, and I just love numbers. I don't like algebra. I don't like any of that stuff. But I really miss numbers and just figuring things out through a number approach. You know, I was thinking about this the other day. I was just a gigantic actuarial. All I'm trying to say is, here's a problem. This sounds like a 40%er. Sounds like a 60%er. And you have to train your lawyers. Because your lawyer, Franklin Roosevelt once said, I want to meet a one-armed economist. Because the economist will say, but on the other hand, the lawyer says, but on the other hand, all I want to know from the lawyer is what's the chance, how much money can I lose, and what's the chances of winning? I don't want to know a lot more, but they won't give you the answer. You have to sit there, go, this sounds like a 60%er. Expense, you're doing all the math in your head. That's what they should be doing. They should say it's like Scheherazade. Do you remember the Scheherazade? She'd always give you the answer in the morning. It's like they know the lawyer. The lawyer knows exactly what you should be doing, but they have to spend a half hour and $500 to explain it to you. Well, just tell me what you want me to do, what you recommend me doing. I don't need the exotic explanation. I just need what you tell me to do. If you tell me to do it, I'll do it. I hired you to solve my problem. I did not solve you as a miter bird to give me back my own problem. So you have to train your lawyers. A good lawyer will think in probabilities, give you the answers and not do on the other hand. But you got to train your lawyers.
Okay, on that note, let's give Paul a big round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, Paul, the next time you're at the beach with your students, we'd like for you to take this to remember a spot.
You have a great school.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much. We'll see you next month.